G'day people, today's the 5th of May 2026. My name is George, here to present the Tuesday edition of Message of Hope. And speaking of Tuesday, well, a week ago, last Tuesday, late afternoon, I walked into a community centre and sat down in a money management course. Naturally, it was free. It's advertised on the notice board. Yes, that's how I saw it. Now, if I had genuinely useful experiences at community centres before, sometimes they were good courses, sometimes not so great. But the good ones, yeah, they were conducted by good people. The kind of thing you stumble across for nothing, hey? So I brought a notebook and left my assumptions at the door and stayed there. Now, I remember there were 3 of us in the room, excluding the instructor. And I don't know whether that reflects the marketing or whether people have simply decided financial education isn't worth a Tuesday afternoon. Maybe they're busy, yeah? Anyway, either possibility says something worth thinking about. But I set that aside and I listened in, really tuned in. Of course, the instructor introduced himself and began talking, going around the tables. He was touching on smart spending choices, savings, a little bit of that, and taking control of your finance. That's the agenda for the 6 weeks. It's just standard territory for me. But like I said, I'm happy to listen to what people have to say. Guess what? Well, about 45 minutes in, he said something in passing. He still had difficult feelings about paying his utility bills. Did you hear what I said? He just didn't like the idea of money leaving his account, and framed as if this were a relatable quirk to bond over. He admitted he sometimes paid him late. And I asked him, you realise there's penalty fee involved, right? He acknowledged it, he understood, but he was happy with that. I didn't tell him. I didn't ask whether he understood that it would affect his credit file too. Anyway, he kept going, and nobody in the room reacted when he said about letting go of the money and not having enough. I wouldn't say not having enough, but didn't pay the bill. And he didn't appear to notice that anything has shifted in the room, from me anyway. Well, guess what? I'm not going back this week, or the next, or the week after. Not at all. Now, I want to be fair to that man. I don't think he was trying to deceive anyone. Just didn't come across that way. But what concerns me is something subtler than dishonesty, right? Because there is a very specific category of harm that arises from not bad characters, but from blind spots the teacher doesn't know they have. Yeah, he was mid-struggle with the exact problem he was there to teach people out of. Apparently unaware that this was relevant information. Interesting so far, isn't it? And we have been here before, haven't we? Not with money. Because there are people online right now claiming that they cured their own cancer through a supplement protocol, special diet, things like that, or a mindset shift even. And they have to follow account to prove it. We've learned painfully what happens when people in medical crisis make decisions based on that content. Dangerous to me, I would say. The charlatan with a compelling story and a comment section full of testimonials is not a new problem. We just keep rediscovering it in new categories. I definitely remember there was an Australian lady who faked her cancer. How's that? It was on 60 Minutes. Not pleasant at all. Financial advice is the current one at the moment, right? And the numbers behind it deserve a moment. Listen to this. 63% of Gen Z, Australians that is, get their financial information from social media. You wouldn't see that statistics even 10 years ago, I imagine. 52% say they trust influencers, financial influencers, that is. They call it finfluencers. That's what they call them. So that's more than half a generation taking money cues from people whose primary qualification, hey, is a decent camera and a confident delivery. Maybe they just read a book and just presented it. I don't know. But picture this, right? A thumbnail and a confident face. 6 figures in 12 months. Ooh, that's the headline, right? A comment section for people who believed in them. People writing comments, right? And beneath it, an algorithm of no interest in whether any of it is accurate. Because I don't know if they do any fact checking. YouTube, Facebook. Only in whether you kept watching. That's what the algorithm is interested. Because the platform isn't going to fix this. It's actually optimizing for the wrong outcome by design. And the people who built it are not your financial advisors. Remember that. They're not interested in whether your retirement fund survives. They want you to keep scrolling. That's not my intention. Australia's financial regulator, which is called ASIC, has been watching this closely enough to coordinate a global crackdown alongside 16 other regulators. Good for them. They're targeting finfluencers, providing unlicensed advice, including content promoting what they describe as guaranteed returns. That's pretty cheeky, isn't it? Be direct with yourself about that phrase. In any legitimate financial context, a guaranteed return on investment is essentially fictional. When those words appear in someone's content, stop and check whether they actually hold an Australian financial services license. Because you've got to be fair with the game. Because providing financial product advice without one isn't a technicality. It actually carried penalties for up to 5 years imprisonment. And sure enough, multi-million-dollar fines too. If the government chooses so. Yes, the framework exists to protect you, but it's not to inconvenience you, right? Oh, so if you know someone following financial content online without checking who's behind it, please do me a favor, send this video, this one we're talking about today, and share it far and wide. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I really would appreciate that. Okay, so back to what I was saying, because this is also why I'm careful about the lane I stay in this channel, right? My focus. Yes, I was a mortgage broker. I had the full proper training, had to do the diploma. I understood that regulatory framework from the inside. And that role came with a precise understanding of where my authority ended, where it starts and where it ends. That's very important. You know your boundaries. Let this truck go. Oh boy. Personal financial advice sits in a separate regulated category for a reason. I don't give personal advice on this channel. I have no interest. And I won't recommend specific products. I can't, I'm not licensed to. What I can do, and what I believe is more durable than any of that, is to bring you what scripture says about money. And I've come to feel genuinely grateful for that constraint. Yeah, you heard me say that. Because the Bible doesn't need to be updated each quarter. The Sermon on the Mount was not sponsored by a trading platform, correct? And there are no affiliate links in the Psalms. While the principles in Scripture address the condition of the human heart. And that condition hasn't changed in 3,000 years more. Which is why when I read what Jesus says in Luke chapter 6, verse 39, and I'm reading something written long before the algorithms existed, that lands as if it was written about them. Here we go. It says, can a blind man lead a blind man? Would they not both fall into a pit? Makes sense to me. Only 8 words for the question, 6 for the answer. Now, take notice what Jesus doesn't say. He doesn't question the blind man's motives, nor does he call a charlatan. Doesn't say that. The problem, I don't think, is the character. The problem is the physics itself. If the person guiding you cannot see where they are going, believe me, your confidence in their direction doesn't move the pit. It's still there. Well, the instructor had been teaching for 45 minutes before the utility bills conversation came up. 45 minutes of reasonable, well, but the content, and then unfortunately, this is a really busy platform here, isn't it? Okay. Let me pick it up. That on one unguarded moment, the kind of detail you mentioned to seem relatable, of course, and everything before it landed differently. Not because he was dishonest, I don't think so, but because a man teaching control of money while paying fines for the absence of it, it is, by definition, a blind man. I will call it that. However kind he may be, however well-intentioned he may be, it's blind leading the blind, okay? Because the pit doesn't negotiate with good intentions. It's confident, engaging, and it's wrong though. Can a blind man lead a blind man? Will they not both fall into a pit? The first time I read that phrase this week, I heard it as a warning about other people. The second time round, it turned around and became a question directed at me. Who am I following? What are their actual credentials? Are they real ones? Not just the social media ones? Do I know honestly whether they've seen the pit from the inside? Good questions, right? Friends, before you act on the next piece of financial content you encounter online, I want you to ask one question. The question is not, does this sound convincing? Because the mind can trick you, right? So will the heart. The algorithm specifically tune your feed to serve you things that feel convincing to you. That's the programming. But ask this instead. Is this person demonstrably living what they are teaching? Not presenting it, not posting about it, but actually living in it. Can you find out whether it's true? Because the man stood in the community center last Tuesday afternoon and taught 3 people about financial control while paying penalty fees for not having it. I don't think he had any idea he was illustrating the verse. The room was just too polite perhaps, or too small to say so. But you're reading it now, and seeing the pit clearly is not a small thing, because it's exactly where the path around it begins. So please, put down in your comments, what's the worst financial advice you've ever been given? Yeah? Is it from a person or a platform or someone who seemed absolutely certain? Because I think the conversation is worth having in the open. Because I suspect what people share down there will be genuinely useful for everyone else who reads it. So let's help the community out, yeah? All right. Well, thanks for today. I really appreciate your time. I'm heading off to a place I need to go in the afternoon. You take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.